Thousands of delegates will be choosing a successor to the current party head, the country's President Jacob Zuma. The election, though, is happening as the ANC faces internal turmoil. There are 7 candidates running for the leadership. The current deputy president and Zuma's ex-wife are considered to be the main contenders.
We have called on all our members and delegates to ensure that unity prevails at the conference. The ANC and the country must emerge as winners at this conference.
Let's speak to Ralph Mathekga. Ralph is a political analyst and joins us from the ANC conference in Johannesburg. Ralph Mathekga, thank you for your time. First of all, do you agree that these two are the main candidates? And just tell us the main differences between Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and Cyril Ramaphosa.
Well, indeed, the two candidates are seen as the front runners. They have been the front runners throughout the process, weeks, months leading to this conference today. And Mr. Ramaphosa is seen as someone who is got a good relationship with the private sector. He's a businessman. He has proved within the business sector, and therefore he's seen as someone who could help to reinstate South Africa's economy, and at least he's being seen as someone who could get a very good audience with the private sector when it comes to the role that they can play to get South Africa out of the current economic crisis where it finds itself. On the other hand, you have Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. This is someone who have actually served under the 3 presidents in the post-apartheid South Africa. She had served firstly under President Nelson Mandela, where she was running a portfolio there. She has also served under President Thabo Mbeki. She has also served shortly under the current president, President Jacob Zuma. She's been seen as someone whose campaign is based on overhauling the system. She's been associated with the talks of radical economic transformation, which means that she might employ some of unorthodox means to deal with the economic crisis within the country and deal also with the question of inequality and so forth.
How do you see Jacob Zuma's future if Cyril Ramaphosa wins? If he wins, do you think Jacob Zuma will see out his presidential term before the next elections?
I do think that irrespective of who wins, the president's remaining term as the president of the country might be shortened. This is because it has become very clear that the president is a liability going into the 2019 election. That is a liability for the party. So the question is, how will his departure be managed? And it is understood as well that perhaps if Dlamini-Zuma wins, what will happen is that the president will be managed out of the maybe the public eye. You will have to have a situation where the president's presence in the country as a leader is fading, and it is being deliberately managed that way. And if Cyril Ramaphosa wins, there is a possibility that actually the president could end up having to resign almost immediately. It is a question of how will the president departure. I think that he will certainly leave, and if Ramaphosa wins, maybe the departure might be not a smooth one. There might be more incentive to humiliate the president. We should remember as well that there are some possibility of the president having to face corruption challenges. That is why it matters a lot to the president as to who wins this elective conference, because if Dlamini-Zuma wins, the understanding is that the president will not be humiliated, because Dlamini-Zuma will have been brought to victory by the president's allies within the party. That is how it is being cut. One way or another, President Jacob Zuma is going. It is just a question of how will he leave office.
Ralph, finally, briefly, if you can, please, do you know what's being discussed at the ANC's National Executive Committee that's having an emergency meeting right now?
The main issue, it is the court processes that have been undertaken by some members of the party to dispute the process of nomination of a candidate leading to this. There has been successful court intervention to some of those processes, and I think that is what the NEC is concerning itself with, because that has got a bearing as to whether this conference will continue or will it collapse.